On this episode, Coach Matt Hill, Arizona State men's tennis, stops by. Hey everybody, I'm Tarek Merchant, and this is the IMRecruitable show. Coach Matt Hill, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely.
We've known each other for a little while now. I'm very excited to do this show with you because I think you're going to add a great ton of value. I think you have such a great, unique story, and for me, it's always been great during our conversations to talk to you and watch you climb up the ranks and have so much success on and off the tennis court. So I'll have you first start off and introduce yourself and sort of give your story, your background in tennis.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Matt Hill, and I'm the head men's tennis coach over at Arizona State. Background in tennis, started at a very young age. My father played at Purdue, and I have an older brother, and we got into the game when we were really, really young. And then, a lot of the junior players kind of moved up through the ranks, and but I have a little different story to where when I was about 15, 16, I had really burned out of tennis. And pretty much, my coach at the time, our main coach was Rick Furman, who was Todd Martin's coach, and I'm from East Lansing, Michigan, that area. And he left to take the president job at the USTA. And then my brother went on to college. He went right here, actually went to Western Michigan, their business school.
Oh, nice.
And so he was who I'd always travel and play doubles with. And so when Rick left, my brother left, I turned 16 and got a car. I mean, tennis kind of just, I was so burned out from playing tournaments since I was like 7, 8 years old. I kind of stopped playing and went to school. I was going to school at Michigan State and out of tennis, started coaching again a little bit on the side for some money. And then I was diagnosed with bone cancer at 19. I was just having a lot of pain in my knee and out of nowhere, and saw a specialist, and they said I needed to go to Detroit pretty much like that day.
Wow.
And so went down there, and they said, did a biopsy and all that, and found out I had osteosarcoma, which was a really rare childhood cancer. And they didn't really have the protocols, the research. I mean, what I took was a research-based protocol of a year of chemotherapy.
Okay.
And then they completely removed my knee and put a total knee replacement in. So from here to here is all titanium.
Okay.
And so
you had trouble at the security? The airport?
Big time.
Yeah.
Before they did those one things, we had some trouble at the security.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a year of chemo, had to drop out of school, move home with my family. And that was really a huge turning point in my life.
Of course.
That's when when you're lying there not sure what's happening, you really...
Scary.
Yeah. And you ask yourself, hey, if I get through this, I really want to do... I said to myself, I want to do something that I'm really going to love and enjoy. And I was at the time studying finance at Michigan State, and because I was always loved math, and my best friend, his dad was CFO for Merrill Lynch, and so the plan was to just go work for him.
Sure.
And but I didn't see myself loving that lifestyle, just maybe being good at it. And so I said, okay, I think I want to get back into tennis. And I spoke to the Michigan State coaches at the time, Gene Orlando, and then Tim Bauer was the women's coach, and they gave me a lot of advice on, kind of getting into college coaching, because I knew I couldn't coach privately in the private sector because I wasn't going to be able to be on court 8-10 hours a day with my knee. I just didn't think that was going to be a good idea.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to coach college, but Gene was like, hey, you had to have played college tennis to coach college, and I kind of had said to him, do you think I could still play here? And he was like, maybe a few years ago in your prime, but now I'm on crutches, no hair, white as a ghost, 115 pounds, in the middle of chemo, and he's like, I don't have a clue,
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. So I finished my chemo treatment out, got a clean bill of health, and took a year and got back into the gym, got back onto the tennis court, like from a training standpoint.
Yeah.
And then I actually decided to play at Ferris State, which is in northern Michigan.
Yeah, get a lot of Canadians.
Yeah, Division II program, and they've been top 10 in the country for a long time, a lot of good players. And so yeah, I went there, played there for 2 years, and yeah, made Elite 8 our second year. That was a great experience, great time. The professional tennis management program was a huge asset to me because there was just so much research and resources there to learn from. And so I grew a lot as a coach. I mean, I went there with the intention of knowing I wanted to coach. So
yeah,
I really immersed myself into that program, and then went from there. I graduated in 2 years, went down to University of Alabama, got my master's degree, and worked for Billy Pate on the men's side there. Billy was fortunate enough to offer me a volunteer assistant coaching position at the time. And so I coached on the men's side there for 2 years, where the staff there we were able to, I mean, Billy is phenomenal. I mean, he's an incredible coach and been an incredible mentor to me, and the program, changed a lot. I think when we got there, we were in the 70s in the country, and we broke the top 10 within 2 years. And then, so that opened some doors for me to go to Mississippi State and work with Per Nielsen.
Yep.
So we came in at the same time, and same kind of story. We were in the bottom of the SEC and 75 in the country, barely. And within 4 or 5 years, we were top 10, which then opened some more doors for me to take a head coaching job at University of South Florida, where I spent 4 years there, and was able to elevate the program to top 15 by the time I think we left. And we had a really one of the best players in the country at the time, who's now doing really well on the tour. And that led me to, I loved my time at South Florida, but yeah, there were some things that I was looking for that it was tough for them to offer. And so Arizona State had called 2 summers ago. They were bringing back their men's tennis program. It's been closed since 2008, and they were looking for someone to lead that program back to existence, if you will. So it was an interesting project for me.
Yeah. You had such an interesting, your story is so inspiring. It's interesting how you bounce back from, that situation where you didn't really know where your health was going to then, now rising to the top. Arizona State, one of the, probably going to be a contender now for a national title in the upcoming years. A great program, that has a lot of history and a lot of emphasis on athletics.
Yeah.
But the path that you took was so unique, because most of the college coaches were big time D1 players, for example, at that level and all that. So was it difficult for you to sort of convince the athletic directors in the programs that, hey, look, I can do this job, I can be at this level. I may not have played at that level and had the same amount of experience as some of the other guys, but I can do it just as good, or if not better.
Yeah, I think.
What was your pitch?
Yeah, look, I've been around unbelievable people. Billy is incredible. The assistant coach at the time was Lee Nickel, and Lee's an incredible coach. He's been at Buffalo for years and doing an incredible job up there, and I learned a lot from both of them.
And Perry had a great success with
Per is unbelievable. He's by far one of the best coaches in college tennis, and we worked together for 5 years, and we learned. I learned a lot from him. I like to think he learned maybe a couple things from me, maybe. You'd have to ask him that. But no, I think the results kind of spoke for themselves, and not to say that it was me at all, but I think athletic directors could see that I was, at worst case, around guys that were looking at, that had flipped programs. That was my pitch when I went in to different head coaching job interviews, and they wanted to turn a program that's struggling into a great program. I said, well, look, I was there at Alabama when we went from in the 70s to top 10. I was there at Mississippi State when we went from the 70s to top 10. And I'm not saying I did it all, but I was a part of that. I understand what it takes. I like to think I'm moderately intelligent and can take that information and move it to the next school. And yeah, every school is different. Every school has its challenges, has its positives, and it's your job as the coach to figure out how to leverage the positives and stay away from the negatives, and be intelligent about that. But that was really, I mean, it wasn't, I know that I wasn't the best player per se in college, but I mean, I couldn't move like that. I couldn't move. I mean, I'm a small guy, right? So when I was young, I mean, movement and anticipation and reading the game and the court was my strength. And so when you get to college and you've had I can't run like that anymore. So, but I grew up under Rick Furman. I mean, I think Rick is one of the most respected coaches in the United States. I mean, he coached Todd Martin from scratch. He coached, countless players. Brad Dancer, who's the Illinois coach. Yeah. Grant Asher, like a ton of guys came through his system. And so I felt like I had an unbelievable foundation as a player, learning from a really strong coach and being around that. And then I thought, in college, I was on a team that made Sweet 16 and national championships, made Elite 8. I felt what it was like to be a player in those experiences. So now it's not Division I, but to me and my experience, it's no different. When I'm at national championships with my guys, and when I was a player and at the national championships, it mattered just as much to me as it matters to my guys. So I know what it felt like to move through the round of 16. I know what it felt like as a player to move through the regionals and go on to Sweet 16. Like, that's not new to me, But yeah, I didn't play on the tour. I was never, even before chemo, I was never that kind of player,
Yeah. So now what do you do with your teams? I mean, what's unique about the programs that you run? You've had, again, tremendous success now as a head coach as well, running your own program the way you want. What's unique about your program?
I mean, I think it's very player centered, very individually player centered. I say that from a developmental standpoint, from a tennis standpoint, it's very individually player centered. And then of course, we teach them what it means to be on a team and how to support one another. I learned a lot from Per about that. I mean, Per was with Adam Steinberg, who Adam's probably the master at that. When you think of team chemistry and using each other as one unit and all of that. So I learned a lot from Per in that space. And but yeah, I mean, it's a very very specific program for players that want to get better. I mean, when we're recruiting, we're very selective about taking players that fit into our culture. Our culture is very defined. It's very, the guys know what they're getting when they're coming into us. We know what we're looking for when we're recruiting. I mean, we're looking for guys that are very serious about their tennis. They have aspirations of doing great things in college, but they have aspirations of playing on as well, after college, which lends itself very well to a culture of development and improvement. Guys that are very serious about their training. They're very focused. That's really the culture that we're looking to create, and we've been able to create at South Florida and even at Mississippi State. Less pro-minded at Mississippi State, I would say. We had some guys that their aspirations weren't professional tennis, but their focus on the training court and the match court was unbelievable. Right. They were unbelievable competitors still. So,
but whether you make it to the pros or not, you're offering that student athlete experience, right?
Yeah.
And that ability to be the best you can be in every aspect of your your career and in the classroom as well. So, you talked about recruiting a little bit and the players you try to recruit and their sort of mindset, what type, you've built a culture there. Those kids now at ASU, they want to be pros and you're driving them to help them, reach those goals. What's a parent's role in the process? What do you think is their role?
Yeah, to be their son's biggest cheerleader and support system, right? I mean, that's their role. I mean, as you know, and a lot of the coaches know, it's a roller coaster ride to even going to the top. There's a lot of swings involved, and there's going to be times where the player needs to be, pushed and from different angles, the coach pushing them or the parents pushing them. I had a scenario just this spring where One of the kids that came to us was from Italy. He'd never been outside of Italy other than like, you know, a 3-week future tour over to Turkey and then come home or something small like that. And so it was a massive challenge, and his parents were a huge support in kind of keeping him focused.
Language barrier too?
Language, yeah, not so much. His English was pretty good, but just culture shock, just massive culture shock. Nothing I've ever experienced, and I've coached a lot of international players. But the parents were amazing, coming alongside and really pushing him to kind of get through that time in his life. And so, I mean, that's their role. I mean, it's their son or daughter, right? It's there to be their number one fan, cheerleader, and support system, you know?
Yeah. And so you talk about helping your players go from college to pro. There's kids trying to go from juniors to the college level. How do you think a player gets one level better? I mean, there's systems like UTR now that can give you that ratings, give you that guideline. So how does one get one level better?
I mean, I think we talk a lot about just taking things like one day at a time. It's a very process-based focus. You know, I think obviously it depends on the player and their needs and what they're looking at. But like, I think when you're talking about, trying to move to a next level, I mean, you need to understand what are the requirements needed to be successful at that level. The requirements needed to be successful at the junior level aren't the same for the requirements needed to be at the collegiate level. You know, just because of the just natural physical development of the players, they're maturing mentally. You know, there's weapon development is obviously a much greater, you know, it's much cleaner at the collegiate level. And so, I mean, understanding the needs of the level that you're trying to move towards is just super important.
Yeah, and so kids are going through the process. You know, we have a big audience that's junior tennis players. Everybody wants to play for the big schools. Not everybody makes it. Clearly, you know, you're an example of that. I'm an example of that in a lot of ways. I mean, I never made it to those top teams for our various reasons. Some people try really hard and just don't get there. Some people have different pathways. I kind of have a similar story to you where I got into other things as well, and tennis hit a back burner at times. But we made the most of it. We had fun. So, you know, what should these kids be doing when they're going through the process? You know,
I mean, I think being, you know, really trying to figure out what is important to you. You know, I think sometimes when I ask recruits that question, I get like a blank stare, like they haven't really put a lot of thought into that, or they haven't figured out how to articulate it. I mean, one of the two. But I mean, I think it's very difficult to figure out what school you want to go to if you don't really know, well, what's really important to you and what are you looking for in a school, and what's going to fulfill like your needs and your desires.
How do they figure that out?
Well, I mean, I think what are you wanting out of a school? Are you wanting a really good academic school because you care about this degree, like their business school is excellent and you really want to go to business? Or, you know, it's why are you going to play college tennis? I mean, I think that like
simple question.
It's do you want to be the guy on court 3 that's getting lifted up after winning a 4-3 match? Like, okay, well then you need to go somewhere where you're actually going to make the lineup. Like it's a realistic, you know, chance that you're going to be actually playing in the lineup, you know. And so there's so many variables that go into, but I mean, you have to ask yourself what's important to you. You know, if you don't make the lineup, are you upset about that? You know, no, I just want to be on the team. They have an unbelievable, you know, engineering degree there. I mean, everyone has different desires and different reasons on why they're going. And I think you need to match those up with the schools that you're looking at, because I think that's where the disconnect is. It's like, well, I love Clemson because I grew up in this area and I love Clemson football and everything. It's like, but does that mean that you're going to be a good fit for the Clemson tennis program, you know, and what they're trying to do? And so, I think being honest with yourself and look, talking to coaches, taking some visits. I wish I would have taken more visits like when I was young, because I'll be honest, when I was playing D2 ball and we were down in like Florida, playing Rollins and these places like on spring break, I'm like, these schools are amazing. Like, what am I doing in Michigan? Like, what am I thinking? So yeah, I mean, I think getting out and seeing some different campuses.
Yeah, that's why I transferred to Florida, by the way.
Smart man.
Yeah.
But that's what
New
I'm
Mexico,
saying, like,
Florida, but well, one of the reasons.
You know, when you're at these tournaments, I mean, they're traveling already because of tournaments.
Yeah.
Like, why not stop and visit a couple schools while you're like, you don't have to set up an official visit, just go check it out and start to think, you know, is this an area of the country I would be interested in living in?
Yeah.
I didn't even think about, oh, why don't I go down to Florida and think like that.
I think it's like too many people get caught up in just playing the game and then not realizing that there's still, you know, you got to prepare for the next step, right?
Yeah.
And so that takes many years and that takes time, and you grow as an individual every year. And so judging a book by its cover can be dangerous, right? Yeah. Because, you know, we see the football programs or whatever, but we don't know the ins and outs of what it's like to be a student athlete. You know, when you're at big tournaments like the one we're here today, you know, if you find the players that want to be at your school, that want to take their tennis to the next level, and vice versa, you like them, but you know, there's maybe a group of them, and you've got 1 spot, 2 spots on your team. Like, what characteristics are going to stand out for you to say, you know, this is the guy I want to recruit?
I mean, I think for both parties, the player and the staff and our team, it's important that they get along with they get along with the guys on the team, and I think that's super key, which worries me a little bit with a lot of the kids verbally committing very early. And I mean, look, as long as they've done their due diligence and they've done their homework and they've met the guys and they've spent time, you know, at the end of the day, it's their decision. But I think making sure that click, you know, like you said, it's easy to look at a brand or think of a university and think, for sure I want to go there, and you don't know, you're going to spend a lot of time with that coaching staff and those players, particularly if it's an elite level school. And if you don't have good chemistry with them, I mean, it's very much like a marriage or a relationship. I mean, you really have to be able to communicate well with each other. I mean, you're going to have some difficult times, and like, if you're not building those relationships, or at least seeing how those relationships could be if they could work well together, that's where I feel like you get a lot of transfer students or things like, I mean, I just didn't like it there at all. And I'm not saying that can't happen even with the homework up front, but I got to think that mathematically you're putting yourself in a much better position.
Yeah, you're making a more educated decision than the other way around.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it for us, is just, and there's a lot of guys at this school or at this tournament that could play at our university and make our team, but you know, certain kids fit better than others, and you just have natural, you know, some kids it's very natural with and easy, and it's like, oh, I would love to spend, because we invest a lot into our players. I mean, we're doing individuals in the morning, we're doing film review, we're doing, you know, obviously group stuff in the afternoon. I mean, since the program is a very development-based program, there is a lot of work that goes into what we're doing, whether it's writing their player developmental programs and really tracking how they're doing on this, and talking with their federation coaches back home on how they're progressing. Or, I mean, we do a lot in that space. So it has to be someone that we really want to be around, you know, a lot, you know.
I mean, you can be picky, right?
Yeah. Well, you're going to be picky, you know, like, and I don't care what level you're at. If you're not being picky, I don't think you're doing a good job recruiting, because I could say that across the board. I know coaches that have been at top 5 schools, and they've recruited guys top 500 ATP, and it didn't work out well because they weren't picky. They weren't picky about the character of the kid or the fit within the program, and so I think you have to be. Yeah. If you want if you want to have your culture, the culture of the team is super important for me. Yeah. You know, and the culture can't be like super solid if you've got people all over the map with the reasons why they're there.
Well, I've had coaches tell me, like, you know, they've won a championship or gotten deep in the NCAA tournament, not because every individual was better than the other team, was because that team was such a great, you know, unit together, that they really pushed each other, and they won some matches maybe they shouldn't have, or they won the ones that were close because they were all rooting for each other, and there was such a good chemistry within the guys. Makes a difference, right?
And conversely, right, if you can probably go deep with a bunch of unbelievable players that don't have that, but that's not enjoyable.
No.
I didn't get in this for that, right? I'd rather be 7 in the country than 2 in the country and love my guys and love what we're doing and enjoy that than just be managing a bunch of guys that are just all on their own and they're just not playing for each other. That's not that fun for me, you know?
Yeah.
So
what can you tell me about your best college tennis memory so far as a player, and give me one as a coach?
As a player, it was probably, clinching our doubles match, which helped us move on to Sweet 16 the first year I was there. That was fun because we hadn't been to Sweet 16 in a while, I guess.
Yeah.
And so for us to go to Sweet 16 and make Elite 8 that year, getting through the regional and going to Sweet 16 down in Orlando, that was fun.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the best probably college playing that I can think of, because the next year we got smoked by West Florida in the round of 16. Derek's team handed us a good one. There are 6 guys like 200 ATP now, so they had a pretty good team.
The thrashing.
Yeah. And then as a coach, a lot of good ones. I would say I might. That's tough. Had a lot of good ones. Probably going to Sweet 16 the first time with my South Florida guys.
Yeah, you really turned that program around.
Yeah.
What were they ranked or unranked? They weren't ranked, right?
Yeah.
And then you brought up, what was the final ranking you guys had? The highest ranking?
I don't know, maybe 13 or something, somewhere in there. That year we missed the cut. We missed the cut to host Sweet 16. We had to go to Virginia Tech. So we must have been 17 then at that time. And we played Virginia Tech at their place. They hadn't lost. They were undefeated at home. And in the ACC, that's pretty tough.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I don't know who was on their home schedule that year, and we won 4-0, pretty comfortable. The guys, and my assistant coach Brandon was back home having his wife was having twins.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he couldn't make the trip.
Wagner.
He's on the phone with like my manager in the back watching the live feed, like, hey, go tell this guy, get over to court 4, because I was just one coach.
Yeah, he's still stuck with those twins.
Yeah. So that was a neat experience. That was pretty fun, because that was the first time they had made a Sweet 16.
Yeah. No, it's awesome experiences. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I mean, I think your story is really, really interesting. I know there's been articles written on you, so we will share those in this post as well, because I think you have an inspiring story. You and I first met, remember when you were at Mississippi State at the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
And I know we hit it off right away. Both of us were very motivated and driven, and I'm so happy to see what you've done with the programs that you've been with over the years, and I know that it's just going to keep going up. And for all the players, parents out there, even college coaches, I think you have that story that kind of tells the coaches, you don't have to come from a certain pedigree. You can do it. Things can happen. And
I think there's a huge difference. I think the skill set to being a player and the skill set to being a coach are different. I think being a great player can help you be a great coach, of course, because you can draw on those experiences yourself. But I don't think everybody that's been a great player is definitely a great coach, because articulating to someone else, to getting them, conveying the message that you're wanting to do. You don't have to do that as a player, right?
Right.
So
and it's not taking away from anybody who's been a phenomenal player, right? Because one of the things
most great coaches were great players because they can draw on so many of their experiences.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for the coaches that maybe weren't the best players in the world, that doesn't mean that you can't become a great coach. You just, maybe you have a stronger learning curve than some of the other people.
Yeah, and you see that happen in football, baseball, basketball, a lot of sports, almost all the time. In tennis, less so. But thank you very much for your time. Some great insight.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.